I was up there to give the volunteers a break, and I was doing the pup sitting at a remote beach on Kauai. It was a mom and a pup that had pupped on that particular beach several times, never any problems. It just happened that this place was a little point in the beach, so you had to have a volunteer on each side so that people wouldn't transverse that beach. They would have to go over the sand dune. So I was on one side without a view of the pup and the mom. So I was there for the encounter. I got a call on my side from the Kauai police saying that a mom and a pup pair had just attacked a swimmer. I did an assessment on her, and she was bleeding profusely from the mouth and nose area. She was bleeding down her hand, her arm, and she was bleeding down her right buttock. But when I went up to her, I was most concerned about the bleeding that was coming from her mouth and nose. She kept saying, "My hand, my hand, my hand." So I checked her hand, and there were some puncture marks, very little bleeding. I was more concerned about the blood that was pouring out of her mouth. So what I observed was like the bite of the jaw of the seal was right here under her throat. Her arm, when I took the towel that they had wrapped around her off, was ripped apart. So I pushed the meat back in, I wrapped it with a towel, and the whole time she's saying, "My hand, my hand." And the bite on her buttocks was very minimal. It was going to be about an hour for the ambulance to come out from Lihui. This is in the Puipu Beach area. It was right about the time of 4 o'clock, right about the traffic time, and the roads are packed. But the next morning I went to visit the young woman in the hospital to assess her condition and her mental state. And so I got a first-hand description of the actual attack. They talked to the young woman before she started to snorkel out, and they said, "There's a mom and pup here." She said, "No, I know it. I've been here the last 2 days," and she was probably 50 to 75 yards offshore. The mom and the pup went into the water, and the mom just disappeared. And the next thing Barry saw was the seal came rearing out of the water and slammed into the young woman. You had this turmoil in the water for about 30 seconds, no more than 30 seconds. And it was quiet. The woman stood up screaming. The mom popped up next to the pup and went onto the beach. That's the reason when I went to check, the mom and pup were back on land. The seal had initially, and I thought the young woman, had grabbed her on the face. Fortunately, she had her goggles and her snorkel on. When she ripped her face away and used her hand, it bit into her hand. She said, "I could hear the bones cracking." And she ripped it out of the monk seal's mouth, and that's when it bit her in the arm. She had no idea when it bit her in the butt, but all less than 30 seconds. Every bone in her hand was fractured. They had to pin her hand back together. What we didn't know until she went back to Washington State was that she had persistent headaches, and when she went in to see the doctors, they found that it had fractured her skull just above her eye. Like any mother-child combination, the mother is very protective, and this is a wild animal. And so if you think of it in terms of the ocean is the seal's home. If you're out there swimming, I don't care how strong a swimmer you are, if that seal decides that you're a threat, you have no chance of escaping. So my advice has always been, there's a mom and a pup, don't go in the water. It's just not worth it. She never blamed the seal. She said, I can understand a mother being threatened. It was my fault.
Attention, attention, swimmers, snorkelers, surfers, paddlers.
I shouldn't have gone in. If she had not been wearing a mask, she probably would have been killed. Yes, and she considers herself lucky. But she doesn't blame the seal, which I find really amazing. She said she heard the cautions, But she'd been, for the last 2 days, she'd come and observed the mom and pup. They looked so docile. And so she was swimming straight out from the end of the tape on the beach. And she just had no idea that she would be perceived as a threat. Absolutely. I mean, without question. They're really not exercising common sense. It's crazy to think that a mom wouldn't defend this pup, and they're seconds away from being attacked.